études-tu?
Moi, je suis à Arabella Ignatieff. J'ai fait un doctorat, un PhD en marketing digital en j'ai mis de 2007 à 2012. Je suis rentrée, en fait, sur Paris et j'ai travaillé dans des écoles comme l'ISG, mais aussi l'ISTEC.
My name's Dr. Gavin Reid. I'm a psychologist. Previously, I was a teacher. Many years ago, I worked at the university in Edinburgh for 15 years in the Department of Special Education, mainly developing courses and lecturing on dyslexia. And currently, I'm based in Vancouver. I'm chair of the British Dyslexia Association Teacher Training Accreditation Board. And I still write books. In fact, this very day, I got an advanced copy of my new book this morning. It's for adults, the Dyslexia Workbook for Adults.
Qu'est-ce que la dyslexie?
That's a good question. And I'm sure if you asked about 6 or 7 people, even people in the field, that question, you'll probably get different answers. But I see dyslexia as a processing difference, not necessarily a disability or even a difficulty. I see it's a difference. And it's a difference in how children and adults are processing information, how they take the information in, what they do with it, how they remember it, how they relate it to previous knowledge, and then how they output it in writing or even orally. Usually it comes out in reading, but generally speaking, in different countries, there seems to be a broader definition of dyslexia. So it's more than just reading, it can affect other things as well. And it certainly can affect your spelling and your writing, and even your math, in the way you do mental calculations and how you process math problems, how you comprehend the problem as well. And in some of the tasks that they're doing in the workplace, they'll get confused, they would jumble up things, get things out of order. So it's a sequencing problem as well, getting things in order, organization. I mean, and all these things are quite independent in a sense from reading.
Comment vis-tu ta dyslexie?
Je pense que plus jeune, c'était plus compliqué parce que plus tu avances dans le système scolaire, moins ta dyslexie te gêne. C'est-à-dire la dyslexie, au départ, c'est une question de lecture et tout. Mais à force de lire et puis à force d'être dedans, il y a un moment où ça te gêne plus vraiment, plus autant qu'avant, en tout cas. Il y a des moments où j'ai trouvé ça pénible, mais je ne suis pas non plus fabuleusement dyslexique. Plusieurs degrés de dyslexie. Moi, j'ai quand même réussi à apprendre des langues et tout ça.
Qu'est-ce qu'il ne faut pas dire à un étudiant dyslexique?
What you shouldn't do is tell them that they cannot do this because they can. With enough support and encouragement and motivation and practice, they can do and achieve most things. You shouldn't tell them that they need to work harder because 9 times out of 10, they probably are working very hard. You shouldn't tell them that they're not bright enough to do this because so many people with dyslexia have heard that message at school and elsewhere, and it's totally untrue, and it's really demoralizing to be told, oh, you're not good enough to do this, because they are.
Peux-tu citer quelques difficultés liées à ta dyslexie?
C'est vrai que, par exemple, quand on me demande de corriger ma thèse, je suis pas capable de voir il y a certains trucs que je suis pas capable de voir, hein, et c'est logique, je suis dyslexique. On est plus créatif. Donc en fait, on a tendance à passer du coq à l'âne. Enfin, c'est-à-dire pour les autres êtres humains qui n'ont pas ce problème, ils comprennent pas pourquoi on passe de ça à ça, mais en fait, c'est très logique pour nous. Tout ce qui est transition et tout ça, tu es vraiment obligé de faire attention.
Comment travailler en groupe avec un étudiant dyslexique?
At university, workplace, at school, invariably they work in groups. In a group, each person in the group has got a job to do. They've got skills, and it's a case of using their skills. Now, the person with dyslexia would be very good at thinking of ideas. They may not be very good at writing them down. Somebody else can do that in the group. They may not be very good at putting them in order. Somebody else could do that. They're really they're creative. They could come up with ideas. they could spark off interest.
Est-ce que c'est difficile pour les professeurs de te comprendre?
Ce que m'avait dit un professeur, parce que je parle aussi espagnol, il m'avait dit: «Je ne comprends pas comment fonctionne votre cerveau. De temps en temps, c'est particulièrement brillant et c'est vraiment en alternance». Donc c'est difficile de comprendre, même toi en étant dyslexique, c'est difficile de comprendre comment tu fonctionnes.
Comment dois-je gérer mes étudiants dyslexiques?
To be honest, the first thing you do is not to make that person special. They don't want to be special. They don't want to stand out. They don't want to be identified. Oh, this is the person who's dyslexic. Come on, sit over here. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if you're teaching in, as I am at the moment, teaching in an auditory manner, then it's very important to perhaps repeat key phrases. Another thing they would probably need is monitoring. So when they're working on their own, you don't want to leave them too long on their own because you want to make sure that he or she hasn't gone off a tangent, they haven't gone off track. So it's really not making them feel special, but making sure that the pace of work is consistent with how they're processing information.
Quelle méthode d'apprentissage un étudiant dyslexique peut-il utiliser?
The research highlights that children and adults with dyslexia take longer to achieve what's called automaticity. When you could do something automatically, you don't think about it. It's just automatic, like driving a car. I know adults who actually benefit from being involved in a project, being in a discussion group, so they could actually speak about what they're doing. So before they go and do an assignment, they've got to discuss it with somebody and say, well, let's look at key points here. What do you think about that? And that's why a lot of them do well in tutorials, because it's discussion. But when it comes to writing it up in an assignment, sometimes they don't know where to start. So it's really important to, have that, even a small group, could just be a study skills group, but they would benefit from that active participation. They benefit from being active and interactive. In terms of a lecture, they need the notes, printed notes beforehand, so they could look through them and they could identify the key points. In fact, when you give them notes, key points should be there for them to look at as well. Watching YouTube videos, if they're getting a new concept, say in science or history, a new topic, then they should start by looking at a YouTube video on that topic and get the visual, get the sense, get the feel of the period or whatever it is they're studying, and then they could start reading about it. When I was lecturing university, often you gave students about 10 books and say, look, that's the reading list for your assignment. But that's absolutely useless for people with dyslexia. They need to know what chapters to read, in which books, where to start. Look, read this chapter first in this book, and especially the conclusion, because there's some key points there, or the introduction. Look at the contents of this book and see if you could identify what chapters you think would be good there. You don't have to read the whole book. So giving them almost guidance when they're reading. They need probably a lot of explanation.
Quels accommodements mettre en place pendant les examens?
Accommodations and exams, first of all. I think I always recommend maybe they get a room to themselves when they're doing the exam, so there's less distraction, because they're probably more prone to being distracted than some other students. So maybe a room or a room with a small amount of students. That's important. It's also important to get extra time. And it's not a case of, okay, you're getting 30 minutes extra time, 45 minutes extra time, so you could write more. And that's not the case. It's not to get you to write more. In fact, many ways you could write less, but you could understand more. That extra time, part of it, at least I would say 10, 15 minutes at the start, is for going through, really reading the questions and understanding the question and reading it again and making sure you understand it and jotting down what you think the key points are, maybe 3 or 4 key points, because so many students, unfortunately, seem to misunderstand the question until it's too late. So it's important to use the extra time for reading the question, understanding it, and then reviewing at the end. In terms of multiple choice exams, especially those using the computer, I think that's possibly the worst possible scenario for someone with dyslexia, because multiple choice involves so much reading, and often there's at least two choices that are almost identical, and one of them is correct. It's almost contrived to confuse, that you're doing it to confuse people. And people with dyslexia can be easily confused when it comes to print. So multiple choice isn't a good option for them, and they would certainly need a lot more time for multiple choice exams. And also not just more time, but more rest breaks. So they might work for 30 minutes and they need to have stretch their legs and then come back again. You often find that's not possible in an exam, but it's got to be, arrangements have got to be made for that, especially if they're doing multiple choice.
Est-il possible d'avoir des accommodements au travail?
If someone is dyslexic, employers have got to make accommodations for them. They've got to make sure that it's all to do with discrimination, that if they don't make accommodations in some way, reasonable accommodations that is, for people who are dyslexic, then they're probably breaking the law. So there is, and employers and HR, human resources people are very, very aware of the legal implications.
En quoi est-ce que la dyslexie est une force?
Now, not everyone with dyslexia is going to be creative and an artist and a film producer. Some people are. So they tend to have strengths. A lot of them tend to have strengths in the visual and the creative part of their brain, like film producers or even poets, stage managers, when they're doing production plays, artists, advertising people who, designers, fashion designers, people who have got to think of something which nobody else has thought of before, something different. But they've all got different strengths. And some people with dyslexia, their strength is in writing. And they could be authors. And there's quite a lot. I've mentioned in this book a few authors who are dyslexic. There's a phrase which I like using. I like using this phrase because it's a friend of mine wrote this in a book. It's called it says people with dyslexia can see the unseen. They could often do things or see things that maybe other people can't. They could get an angle to something that other people can't. And that's why it's so valuable to employers. So what they've got to do is to get through university and then they'll be fine.